What's up, everybody? Matt Gajeski here, back again with the Odd Shopper channel. Today, we're talking college basketball bets ahead of Tuesday, the 21st. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. If you're listening on podcast, please leave a rating and review over there. And we are brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. They have a limited time, no-brainer offer for you guys, where you can place a $5 pregame moneyline wager of any team of your choosing, any sport. And if that bet wins, you are going to be paid out $150 automatically. So to take advantage of this, click the link in the video description below. Make your first deposit of at least $5 and then go ahead and make that $5 wager. I personally believe the best way to take advantage of this is find a big favorite on the money line. So today, an example of this would be Arkansas. They're about minus 13.5, minus 14. You bet them on the money line, really good chance they win that bet, increasing your odds of turning that $5 into $150. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. The legal age for gambling in most states is 21 plus. All right, we get into today's slate. Well, let's look at yesterday. Another positive day for me. Ended up with the under in the Kansas TCU game. Took a really bad line there, so line movement definitely worked against me. It was favorable that it still cashed the under. Santa Barbara, they did not cash, unfortunately. And then Louisville, they covered even the final closing line. They took massive amounts of money throughout the day. But, you know, as with Louisville at this time of year, they're playing better and teams can still blow them out and not really need to put their foot on the gas. So anytime Louisville's like a 20-point underdog, generally jumping on that at this point. But overall, another positive day yesterday. And we try to roll that forward as we have a Super Tuesday on our hands with a ton of really good games and mainly talking rematches at this point in the year. So bring you behind the glass. First one we'll talk about is Baylor, Kansas. This might be the rematch of all rematches right now tonight. The first time these teams played, it was a 97-95 overtime win for Kansas State on the road. That was crazy. Crazy game. I look back at the shot quality for this one. Baylor actually had an 81% chance to win that game based on the shots taken on the floor. So quite a bit of noise in that first matchup. Baylor should have had a win in that contest. Personally, I don't recall if I bet it or not. So there was no stake in the game for me, but just interesting to see Baylor getting so unfortunate in that first contest. They hit the road here, but they're taking a lot of money right away. I jumped on this at minus 1.5. It's already moved to minus 2.5. It's still at 2 in some spots. I think that's a fine number. Basically, you have an edge Baylor's direction in most facets of the game. Offense, for sure. Baylor's one of the better shooting teams in the country right now. They take a ton of threes. They're 24th in the country in three-point attempts per game. They're just outside the top 50 in three-point percentage, but well inside the top 100. So this is a really good shooting team. They will have to contend with a solid Kansas State defense, but, I mean, this is a team that's put up 90 on them before. I don't see that being too much of an issue. And Baylor on defense has improved a little bit themselves. They got back Jonathan Chama-Chachua, who gives them a bigger presence inside. And Kansas State, not the best scoring team to begin with. And what I really think here could be a big difference maker is the ball pressure that Baylor will put on Kansas State. Kansas State is, in terms of turnovers, this team is 314th in turnovers committed. That's an awful number. Still don't have a true ball handler on this team. And then Baylor's top 100 in turnovers generated. So got a good number here, minus 1.5. Think that's completely fine and would back this through to 2.5. No issues with the current number right now in the Big 12. Next game, we will, let's see which one I put second. Big East game. Couldn't remember what order I did these in. We have Nova taking on Xavier, and this one's going to be a total. Took under 148. This is currently at 147. No issue with the current number. I think this is a bit inflated, and we have to consider the first game here. That actually finished with an 88-80 score in favor of Xavier. That was on Nova's home court. Now they hit the road here. But just a crazy outlier performance in terms of shooting. Xavier shot nearly 50% from three in that game. Just an absurd, highly elevated score here. Anytime we're getting Nova really totaled anywhere near 150, it's almost an auto bet towards the under for me, unless there's some crazy circumstance. And this is borderline. You know, Villanova is still playing that characteristic, really slow pace. About 67 possessions per game. You can see that on the screen. That's well below the NCAA average, which is around 70. Xavier's way above that. They're at nearly 75 possessions per game. But as we've seen, we know the slower team generally wins out in these pace-on-pace matchups. So that immediately favors the under in the spot. And then both teams have been awful on defense this year. I think this is another reason why you're seeing the total so high. You have Villanova 208, Xavier 175. However, those are season-long metrics. I went back and I isolated these teams' play just from January 1st onward. Villanova's 80th in defensive efficiency and Xavier's 90th. They both have taken pretty big jumps, especially down the stretch in terms of defensive efficiency. So I think this is probably going to be a slower tempo game overall, with defense at least being better than the first matchup. And both these teams, if you go back and look at their box scores, which generally I don't try to do, would rather look at efficiency metrics, but this can kind of just be something that we reference. Both of these teams have not been scoring quite as much recently, unless the team they face is DePaul. It's funny, like you look at the DePaul games for both these teams, and there's a giant spike in scoring, but other Big East opponents, it's actually pretty in check. So we'll go under 147.5. I took under 148. No issues with the current number. And final game, Big 12 rematch. Another one that was actually tightly contested in the first matchup. Oklahoma won a 68-63 overtime game in Texas Tech Stadium. A crazy game overall, but a low-scoring one. So when this opened at 138, I was very surprised. The under is currently sitting at 137, so another one taking money. And I think this is one we want to jump on before it might take more. Possessions, it favors the under. You have Texas Tech slightly above average, 71.4. Oklahoma, 68.5. The overall pace in the game projects to be about a half a possession below the average, which makes a lot of sense. And both these teams been solid in defensive efficiency. Texas Tech 65th and Oklahoma 135th on the year. I went back and I isolated Oklahoma's defense inside basically since January 1st. They're inside the top 100 now too. So we have a slow-paced game environment, two teams that are pretty defensively sound. Like Texas Tech has Fardaws Aimaq back. They also have Pop Isaacs back. This team is getting healthier. And Oklahoma's just kind of figured out their rotations now. You have Uzan and Ortega playing a lot more minutes. Groves when he's not fouling out. And Sherfield's playing max minutes too. Oklahoma's better now that they have figured out their rotation, and players like Sam Goodwin and Cortez aren't playing quite as much. So we'll go with another under 137.5 is fine. I took under 138. Ton of games on deck. Marquette plays Creighton. I could go on and on about all the games, but we'll limit this here. If you have other questions, you can reach out on Twitter at Matt_Kajeski. We chop up bets all day in our Insider Discord. Check out that if you would like. Otherwise, leave a comment. Let me know what games you're interested in today. And we'll be back tomorrow and all throughout the rest of the week talking college basketball bets. Until then, good luck, everyone. We will see you later.